Welcome back to Just Scrap Radio on BJPenn.com. I'm your host, Cole Shelton. Episode 67. We got a good lineup ahead of UFC Vegas 48. First up, we're joined by the legend Jim Miller to preview his fight against Nicholas Mata. They're obviously supposed to fight last September. Miller ended up testing positive for COVID. That's the first ever fight in his career he's had to pull out of. So we kind of talked about that. His last win and just rebooking this fight. And whether he likes these fights against these newcomers is obviously Mata's UFC debut or where he'd rather fight those veteran guys. But we also talk about his kind of legendary career and when he kind of thinks he's going to retire. But he still thinks he has got a long way to go. But he's really excited for this fight. He thinks this is a good match for him. And he could go out there and get another big win. We're then going to be joined by Kyle Dawkins to preview his fight against Jamie Pickett. He was always supposed to fight Julian Marquez. Me and Kyle did an interview previewing the Marquez fight. And then like a week later, it came out that Pickett was in. So I just texted Kyle. He was good enough to redo it, talk this Pickett fight. The big interesting thing is this is actually at 195 pounds. It's a catchweight bout. Jamie Pickett wanted it done because he said he couldn't make 185, but Kyle just really wanted to fight. So we took it. He said he pushed for 185 or 190, but 195 is where Pickett said that's the lowest he could probably get to. We're then going to be joined by Parker Porter to preview his fight against Alan Badeau. Parker Porter, obviously 36 years old, the UFC debut. Not many people knew who he was. He got knocked out by Chris Dawkins in the first round. People didn't really think too highly of him. They called him like that journeyman guy, like he's a guy that lost to Gabriel Gonzaga on the regional scene. His first pro loss was a 36-second knockout to John Jones at light heavyweight. But since then, rallied off 2 wins over Josh Parisi and Chase Sherman, has looked impressive. And he believes he has all the tools to not only beat Badeau, but get his first UFC finish, which he thinks would really would really help him up and move him up the heavyweight ranks. He also kind of talked about running it back with Chris Doggis in the future on a full camp, just to show that version of Parker is not the version that we see every day in the octagon. We're then going to be joined by Jonathan Pearce, similar to Kyle Dawkins. I interviewed Jonathan Pearce when he was supposed to fight Austin Lingo. Lingo's out. In steps Christian Rodriguez. He's a highly touted prospect out of Rufus Sport, fought on the Contender Series last year, didn't get a contract, picked up a win in January. But what's really interesting is the guy he beat on Contender Series is Jonathan Pearce's teammate, a guy he trains with, so they know him really well, but he just thinks he's going to be way too much for Rodriguez. He's going to overwhelm him and get that first-round stoppage. And then we close things out talking to Chad Anheliger, my fellow Canadian, to preview his UFC debut against Jesse Strader. Chad's had a long road to the UFC. He started his career 2-5. He made some serious changes, and now he hasn't lost since. Picked up a big win over Muan Gaffarov on the Contender Series to get the contract. He's knocked out Brady Highstand on the regional scenes, which obviously was the tough runner-up. So really high-level competition for Chad, and he thinks this is a fight similar to what Pearce said. He thinks he's just going to be way too experienced, way too much first straight, and he'll eventually find that stoppage. But really good episode. Be sure to share the show, subscribe, and thank you all for listening. And be sure to tune in next week for another episode of Just Scrap Radio. All right, we're joined by UFC Lightweight Jim Miller, who's back in action here pretty soon. Jim, how's it going, man?
It's going good. Going good.
Obviously you're supposed to fight Nick Mata late last year. I guess not really late, but September. And then you end up having to pull out because you get COVID. Like when that happened, did you think it would just get rebooked and like that Gonzalez fight kind of came out of nowhere?
Yeah, actually, I thought it was getting rebooked. I took about a week and a half to 2 weeks. I got over COVID. It took me a couple of days. And then like got back into the gym and was like, okay, I can blow this blow the shit out of my lungs in a few days. So I told Sean that I'd be ready, mid-October. And I thought that the Mota fight was getting rebooked. That's what I was told. And then it just kind of, I guess, fell through. The day wasn't good for him. So it's good because I feel like I've already, done the camp for him. So just falling back into it and ready to go.
Just quickly before we go into that fight, like how disappointing was that? Like first time you ever have to pull out of a fight in your career?
If I've gone through situations where COVID can affect people pretty seriously, but for me, I felt like I've dealt with worse illnesses leading up to fights. So like I felt a little bit in my lungs for like a day or two, but there are plenty of times where I've fought having, gotten over walking pneumonia or other stuff within the last couple of weeks of a fight. So it sucks because it's like, I had never pulled out of a fight before that, but it's like, hey, there's something here that forced me to have to pull out, so it is what it is, even though I hate saying that. I hate that saying, but that's the way it goes. So I was able to get back into the octagon a month later, so it wasn't that big of a deal.
With this fight getting rebooked, like how much easier, or not really easier, but like how much better does it make training camp now that you've already like studied him, so you know exactly what to work on and what kind of stuff you can kind of get out of his game.
I mean, it honestly it really doesn't matter. Like it's a little more time for him to develop new skills. We're professional athletes, so you can't plan on fighting the same guy that you watch fight, 6 months ago, let alone 3 years ago. So um, it doesn't matter. It's just it's a fight. It's an opponent, and as long as somebody's standing across the octagon for me, I'm happy.
Your last fight, like, was that a big relief just getting a win like that to get back in the win column, like just a one punch knockout?
I mean, yeah, it's like it sucks coming off the losses, and you want to end that slide, um, but it's just a fight, and like a guy like Gonzalez, he's dangerous because I didn't really know much about him, so here's a guy that had a fantastic opportunity. If I had put myself in his shoes, I'd be like on cloud nine leading up to the fight. Here's my opportunity. I get to fight a guy that's been around for a long time and fought, some of the best guys on the planet, and he is 38. So like, here's his golden opportunity for him. So I knew going into it that he's just going to come at me and kind of be a man on fire. So um, that made it for me a little bit. It's a little more difficult because I know that he's got nothing to lose. Um, but yeah, getting the win is great, and winning in the fashion that I did was, it's cool. It's cool to one punch somebody.
With Malta, like how much or like how do you think you match up against him? Just because he is young, like you never really know how much he is improving on.
Um, I think I match up well. The body of work that I have behind me, I've fought just about every style, every body type there is, and I've seen just about everything. So it's there's not much that he can do inside the octagon that I haven't seen before. Um, but yeah, it's a fight, and like I said, he could be working on things that he hasn't done in fights, and there are plenty of things that I am capable of that I haven't shown. So it's like it's always going to be a crapshoot. There's always that mystery involved because you never know what somebody else has. In the toolbox.
He hasn't fought in like 15 months, like November 2020. So like, do you think that's gonna like hurt him, or do you think it's gonna help him? Where because he's young, that's a lot of time in the gym to improve stuff, and at the same time, like you could have ring rust with not fighting for that long.
I think most fighters, I think that long a time off hurts. There are the exceptions to the rule that some fighters are able to do it well and to keep training and keep healthy and keep improving without that goal of a fight in mind. But I do feel that most of the time, longer layoffs are not the best for a fighter.
How do you kind of see this fight playing out? Because he has been finished in most of his losses, and you're a guy like most of your wins, you do find that stoppage eventually.
I see it going just like every one of my other fights. I'm going to come out and I'm going to fight as hard as I can for as long as I can, and I know that he throws big hooks and real like high kick, and we're expecting that, and it is one of the weirder fights that I've had or opponents in that he's shorter than me. I haven't fought a lot of guys that are shorter than me. But then it's like, hey, use my length, use my range. I've sparred plenty of guys that are shorter than me, so I know how to do it. Um, But yeah, it's a fight. So I'm going to be going in there and looking for the finish from bell to bell, just like I always do. It doesn't matter, who's standing across from me. My goal is to fight to my strengths, and that is my strength, is just going hard and making people make mistakes.
Are you a bit disappointed just at the Apex and you couldn't get on one of the pay-per-views in front of fans?
I mean, it'd be cool to get back in front of the fans. My plan is to get out of this one healthy, and then and fight that early July card. That'll definitely be at the big arena. Um, that'll be 40, and I'd like to have my family and kids there and stuff like that. My wife hasn't been to a fight since you know uh, beginning of 2020, so it's been a little bit. So yeah, it's just whatever, whatever. I get to get my hands taped and throw the gloves on and bite down on my mouthpiece. So it doesn't matter. Especially like I said, where I'm at 39. I know that 40 is right around the block, and I'm gonna ask to be on a big card for that one.
Betting underdog in this fight, does that surprise you? It seems like most of the time you're always the underdog.
It doesn't surprise me. It's it's Vegas, so the betting lines are not always in line with what people actually believe or
Yeah.
anything like that. So I do not take it to heart. I don't take it personally. Um, I'm not a gambling man either. So like it doesn't bother me one way or another.
You kinda mentioned there, but, like, how you wanna go in July, but, like, a win over Mata that's 2 in a row, especially if you finish them, like, what do you think that does for you in the division?
Um, I don't know. It depends on the way the fight goes. If I can go out and have another impressive finish, then I think it gives me the opportunity to fight somebody that's at least knocking on the door of being ranked. Um, and get that bigger fight. But there's the side of me that knows that I can compete with the best guys. It's just about showing up on fight night, and then there's a side of me that's like, man, I can't wait till there's something else. so so it's like uh, uh, it's not like it's cruise control at this point or anything like that, where I'm just kind of riding it out. But I like to fight. I want to fight tough guys. There's nobody in the UFC that's not tough. So, any fight it satisfies my hunger and my thirst for it. So, um, yeah, like I said, if it's a great win, impressive win, we'll see. Maybe we can take a step up and try to start climbing the ladder again. Um, if not, and see how the last month of training camp goes in the next couple months, and we'll see if it's time to take the hat off and hang it up. I wanted to make it to 40, and I know that's going to happen at this point. um like today I am still fighting through the end of the year and looking at UFC 300. But it's things change awful quickly when you become an aging MMA
Yeah.
fighter. So yeah, who the hell knows? I could slip on the ice walking back to the house, and that be it. So I'm just enjoying the opportunity to get out there and fight. So I'm not really thinking about it at the moment. I'm just having fun being in training camp and looking forward to the fight.
I'm not sure if you know this exactly, but you're 2 minutes and 59 seconds away from 6 hours in the octagon. Like, what's that like?
That's that sucks. Because every second in there, I mean, for the most part, every second in there hurts. So it's oh yeah, it's cool. It's cool to hit that milestone, but it's like yeah, you're living inside a washing machine, getting tumbled around and beat up, and like it's that time under stress. It's like Indiana Jones. It's not the years, it's the miles. So that it's a lot of miles in the octagon.
Well, the flip side, you could be Frankie Edgar, who's like 16 or 17 minutes away from 8 hours. So you have him by at least 2 hours, like less than him.
Yeah, it's whatever. I don't.
But
I'm not hanging my hat on that one.
do you think like anyone will ever get close to like 6 hours or 40 fights again? Because it just doesn't seem like many people are hanging on to the UFC for that long.
I don't know. I don't know. I think that it's getting harder. Um, it's going to get harder for athletes to stick around just because you're looking at competition that like I started MMA when I was 21. A lot of the younger fighters have been doing it from the get go at this point. So that time under stress, for an extra 6 years when you're a teenager, it does matter. So I think it's going to be harder for the younger fighters to hit these milestones. But yeah, I can't rule it out. I mean, who knows?
You mentioned it kind of there. Like, are you hoping though? Like, 40 is a definite, but like, is the plan still UFC 300? Like, that's the goal for the final fight.
That's the goal right now. Yeah, yeah. I would be 100% content no matter where I am. If I was knocking on the door of a title shot and it's like UFC 300 rolls around, I could take the gloves off there. Um, it Yeah, that's it because we're looking at another 3 years. So um, yeah, I don't know. But 300 is the goal. It is the goal right now.
Yeah, I think it would be like 2.5. Like, probably mid near the end of 2024. I'd probably think around then it would be. So it's doable. Like, it's not that far. Like,
It's
it sounds far, but it's not like totally out of the way where it's like 5 years you got to keep going for.
it's attainable. It's definitely attainable. I just have to do my part.
Say you can't get to there, like, are you hoping though, like your final fight will be in front of fans? Because I just hate seeing like even when Cormier went off at the Apex, like I think all those guys should have their final fight in front of fans and get that proper send off.
I agree. Yeah, it was. I would have liked for DC to have had that opportunity to fight that last one in front of the fans. Maybe it's not a big deal to him. Uh, I'm gonna know going in that it's my last one, so I'm going to ask for something like that. If that we're still having, I mean, obviously, I think that the Apex is going to be sticking around for a while, so because it's so easy for them to bang out these little cards there. But I will ask that my last one be in front of the fans.
Just last thing, so the kind of career goals are 40 fights, which seems destined to happen. 300, but are there any guys you still want to fight? Like I know you've always talked about that cowboy rematch for maybe both your 40 fights. Like, is there any other guys you haven't fought or you just want to fight again before the career's up?
Um, I mean, nobody really like. There are a lot of guys that I've got a lot of respect for, and I'd love to share the octagon with. Um, but yeah, it's just the list is so long that nobody really stands out at this point. Like that. I need to fight them because my motivation has never been like, oh my gosh, I hate this guy, I want to beat him up. I would like the opportunity to fight Gaethje at some point. I think uh, I think we could put on a hell of a fight, and I know it's going to be one that we're probably both limping away from.
Yeah.
So there's a part of me that's like, oh fuck that, but then there's it's like, hey man, it's an opportunity to go out and put on a good show. But yeah, it really doesn't matter. Like I said, I like fighting these guys that I don't know a lot about. It's a little more nerve wracking, honestly, like in the lead up because you don't know what to expect. Um, so there's a part of that I enjoy that it's nerve wracking, um, and I enjoy that there's the unknown. Um, and then there's the fighters that have been around for a long time that I've got a ton of respect for and I'm a fan of that I would love to share the octagon with. So um, it's and everything in between. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter, right? It does not matter to me. So yeah, whoever, whenever, wherever.
Well, I guess Guido was kind of that last guy that like everyone kind of wanted to see you two fight just because you guys were around for so long. But like you've kind of fought everyone that's been around for just as long as you have.
Yeah, yeah. At this point, huh?
Well, Jim, I appreciate the time as always. Thank you so much for doing this.
No problem.
All right, we're joined by UFC middleweight Kyle Doggis, who's fighting on the same day, just a different opponent now. Kyle, how's it going, man?
It's going good, man. Thanks again for having me.
Yeah, obviously we did this. We were supposed to fight Julian. Kind of a weird thing, like we kind of mentioned off air, like he's commenting FAC, like you said your friends messaged you, like I even saw people on Twitter saying like that doesn't really look like a middleweight. Then it was like what, the next day or the 2 days
Yeah.
later he pulls out. So like what did you kind of hear of why he was out?
I never got I just heard he was injured. But I have no idea. Like we don't. This is something that I feel like fighters in the UFC should be able to, or should be told to come out and tell them what the injury is, as opposed to just claiming you have an injury even though you might not. Not saying that that's Julian's case. We kind of figured Julian was kind of very injury prone. He's been out for like almost a year at a time, with a couple injuries that I've seen since he's been fighting. But he might have just re-aggravated that injury or whatnot. But I think this is something that kind of fighters should be coming out with, and that like they should be forced to tell them, just so you're that there's an injury, and that it's like person's not just kind of like backing out. Because like look at the Max thing. Max got injured and then he went and got checked out by the doctor, and now he's cleared to fight, so he's good to fight. But yeah, the whole thing happened. It was kind of wild. The whole happened real quick. And we found Jamie decided to take the fight the next day, so I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, the good news is like you are still fighting. Like this came out pretty quick. Like did the UFC basically just say Jamie right off the bat, or were there a couple options for you?
There was nobody like right off top of the other heads that they offered me. I did throw out a couple names that I was kind of interested in if people would fight me. But all those guys kind of had fights already scheduled, so I was like, all right, whatever. But no, he came back. They came back yesterday. I want to say it was yeah. I got the call after training around 12 o'clock Eastern time. So around then, they told me that Jamie wanted to take the fight. The fight is at a catchweight, so that's the only kind of breaking news now. I don't think anybody's known that yet. It's at a 195 catchweight. So yeah, no big deal. I'm very thankful for that he took the fight. Especially on 10 days notice, it's not very many fighters that will do that. And I'm very thankful for Jamie.
Catchweight, I imagine, is because his end just take it out in like 10, 11 days.
Yeah, I mean, he just fought, I think, in January, they said. So in order for him to make 85, he would need more time, obviously. I tried to get the fight down to 190, but they wouldn't budge. But it's okay. It's fine with me. I'm going to take the fight anyway. The contracts are signed and we're ready to go.
It's like, obviously, he's probably going to be bigger than you just because he is just generally his frame looks bigger. And then obviously he wants the 95, but a bit of bonus is not cutting those extra last 5-10 pounds, because any fighter I talk to, they'll say the last 5 pounds sucks no matter what.
Oh my God. It's great because yesterday I woke up at like 206, and usually I start like dieting down a little bit now, but now that I only have 11 pounds to cut, I can cut that in like 2 days. So I'm back to like eating fine. I'm eating a lot of meals now. I'm not on a calorie deficit. I'm kind of just eating for performance as opposed to eating to lose the weight. So it's very good. I feel very strong. I'm going to feel a lot stronger now because we're at a higher weight class. But yeah, I feel good. I'm ready to go.
What have you made of Jamie's run to the UFC? Like, didn't start the best, like lost his first 2 fights, like got knocked out by Jordan Wright, and then since then he's pulled off 2 wins in a row to get kind of back rolling.
Yeah, he's a very good fighter. I think he's got a very good frame for the division. He's very tall and lanky, kind of like myself. He does have a longer reach than I do. I believe he has a 80-inch reach as opposed to like I think I have like 76 or 77. I think. But yeah, he uses his strikes very well. He doesn't mix it up too much. He's not very good off of his back foot. We've seen that in 2 of his fights that I've noticed at least. But I've been studying up on him. I think it's a great matchup, and again, I think I'm superior in all aspects of the fight.
Stylistically though, like, is this not like a good opponent you got just because he's a very similar fighter to Julian, where it's just a lot of power and just kind of like a bigger guy from middleweight that wants to obviously keep it standing?
Um, I don't know if it's kind of like the same kind of fight. I think Julian's more of a brawler.
Yeah.
But Jamie's more of like a long range striker. You know, he tries to keep his distance and everything like that. So I mean, I have to switch up a couple of things in the fight that I wouldn't have had to switch up against Julian. But sorry, that's my dog. And I just know that it's going to be a little bit tougher to get in on Jamie as opposed to it would have been to get in on Julian because of the size difference.
Does your game plan really change? Because for most guys, it's just get them down to the ground, and then once you get down to the ground, like, you're obviously much better than most people you fight.
No, I mean, I don't really have a different. I'm not going to mix anything up for the game plan. If it was that much of a game plan change, then I wouldn't have taken the fight. I sat down with my coach and my brother. We talked about it, and I feel like the game plan that I have for Julian is going to work just as well against Jamie. So the only thing that we're going to take advantage of is obviously him having to cut the weights so quickly. He's not going to have a very good gas tank, obviously. So we're going to try to put it on him in the first round as quick as I can.
Yeah, that's something I actually want to touch on. Is when you see a lot of people take short notice fights, it's like a lot of them just kind of go for broke in the first round because they kind of know they don't have that cardio 3 rounds. So is that something you're kind of going to be well aware of? Like, you got to be careful in that first round.
I believe against everybody you have to be worried early because everybody's strong, quick, and very, very powerful within like the first round. But that's the thing with him; he's not a very quick starter, and I don't know what he's going to come out. You know, maybe the thinking that he's going to have going out is going to be he has to get the fight. He has to bring the fight to me as quickly as possible. So he'll be, exploding as much as possible that he can in the first round, trying to get me out of there, or he could potentially just coast the 3 rounds and just try to win a decision. But I'm not somebody who's going to go out there and expect one thing and then not expect the other thing. I'm going to keep an open mind when I'm in there, and I can't be complacent on anything that happens in there. I know he did just fight, but I'm assuming that he's still training. It's stupid of me to think that a full-time fighter is not going to keep training even after they fight. So I'm sure he's in some type of shape, but I'm going to test it to make sure that he's in shape.
And how important do you think that first takedown is going to be? Because if you get it and kind of hold him down, like, I feel like that's probably going to lower his confidence. And same for like any fighter you kind of face. Like, if you can take him down and they can't get back up, I think it's like that's obviously a big confidence lower for them.
Yeah, anytime you can take somebody down early in the fight, it's always plays in your favor. Obviously, it's just I have to make sure that I can't let him get back up. I have to weigh heavy on him and make him carry my weight and just get him tired very, very quickly. I know that weight cut is going to bother him, and I know that with my cardio that I have and my takedown ability that I have, it's going to be very difficult for him to stand up. Although he is very good at getting up explosively, and he's very good offensively wrestling too. So there's a couple of things that I have to mind as well. But yeah, that first takedown that I get, if I get it, and take him down and I keep him down, I don't see him lasting very long.
How do you kind of see the fight playing out then?
I can kind of get a good feeling on this one that he will gas, and it's just a matter of me just picking my shots and either TKOing him, getting a decision or submitting them early.
What do you think a win does for you? Because I remember when we talked like literally like a week ago when it was supposed to be Julian, that you kind of thought like you might be fighting for your job, but I didn't think so. But like, do you kind of still feel that way even though you took a short notice fight, or not like a short replacement?
That's just the mindset that I have going into the fight. I have to have the mindset that like this could be my last one potentially, even though it's definitely probably not. I still have the same mindset every single fight that I have to go in there and win, and I have to go out there and prove that I'm, one of the top guys in the division. As long as I get a win and get a finish, it's going to just show that, I got a win and the finish over a guy that was kind of on a run in the UFC so far. He's 2-2, I believe, in the UFC. So, I mean, that's good. If Julian wants to meet farther down the road when he's healthy, I'm welcome to that. If they want to give me a guy with a number next to his name, I'm also fine with that. I'm not going to, kind of pick who I want to fight or whatnot, or not fight this guy because he's not ranked, or fight this guy because he's ranked or whatnot. Whoever they offer me, I'll take it.
195 though, like how do you think that's gonna play a factor in the fight? Just because obviously he doesn't have to cut as much, but then on the flip side, like that's only gonna help you and be so that you are stronger as well.
Yeah, I just believe that he wanted to get that he wanted to fight at 95 just because, he might be really heavy right now. He might be around 220, 215 to 220. So that's kind of what we're thinking. But I fought at 205 and I fought at heavyweight when I was an amateur. So I'm going to be more than comfortable fighting at 195. I won't be as dehydrated or as sucked in as I usually am at weigh-ins, which is always great. But I'm also training with heavyweights at the gym that I can lift up and power double and whatnot right now at 205 pounds. So 10 pounds less on one day, rehydrating back up to 205, 206. I'll be ready to go and be more than ready.
Yeah, I guess you work with your brother all the time, so like fighting guys that weigh more than you are probably stronger than you, like it isn't that unusual for you.
Yeah, it's definitely not a big deal. Because I've been training with him and the guys at my gym that are heavyweights for my whole pretty much career. I train with smaller guys in the gym. But obviously I can't go too hard with these guys because then they don't get the work that they're supposed to get in for to make them better.
Where do you think a win over Jamie puts you in the middleweight division? Because like obviously I think a lot of people view you as the win over Holland. It kind of would be 2 in a row, and like especially if you can finish them, it would be technically like 2 finishes in a row and kind of put you up there again.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. It's tough because people are going to say he took a fight on 10 days, blah blah blah. You did this, you did that. You headbutted Holland, you did all this, yada yada yada. But it is what it is. I have to keep on winning. But again, they can put whoever they want in front of me, and I'll fight them. I would obviously like to get a guy with a number next to his name. I think I deserve that next. Some people might not say I do, but I wholeheartedly believe in my heart and in my mind that I deserve somebody with a number next to their name next after this win.
And with like what is this past year like kind of been like for you? Not even past year, the past couple of months, like the Kevin Holland fight, like that should have been a win for you. You get rebooked, he pulls out. You get Leeds, he gets COVID, and then you just get booked like a couple months later into Marquez, and then it's another opponent change. Like it just seems like been a crazy couple months for you.
It's wild because I forget. I don't know if it was you that was interviewing me and asked me about his last fight. He didn't pass like his medicals. Yeah. So that happened. And then I was like, shit, like I started stressing real hard about it. I was like, man, like I was telling my brother, I was like, did you know like his last fight that he didn't pass his medicals after weigh-ins? And he was like, no. So then that was another thing on my mind. And then I got the call on Monday that he was hurt. And I was like, oh my God. But on Monday night when I came home, I told my fiance, I was like, 2022 starting off right where 2021 left off. Like you couldn't write this story and just like you couldn't put it together and make it believable. But all of 2021 and the beginning of 22 so far is pretty rough. But I'm just hoping that Jamie makes weight and that we can get in the cage on next weekend and fight.
Is that Julian fight one you'd like rebooked, or just because like he has made it to the fight a couple times, like maybe you want just a guy that has gotten there more consistently? I
mean, it's always good to get a guy that's in there that's been consistent and has a good track record of making weight and fighting. I'm not somebody, again, I told you before, I'm not somebody who like dwells on past fights that didn't happen or bad things that happened in past fights. Like rematches and stuff like that. If it happens, it happens. If I fight him next, I fight him next. If I fight him 3 fights from now, I fight him 3 fights from now. It's no big deal to me. Again, whoever they put in front of me, I'm going to fight.
Just last thing, next fight though, pay-per-view in front of fans, like it's only been the apex for you.
I'm hoping, man. I'm hoping. It's I hope so, because I just want to get one in front of the fans. I want to have like a whole group of people there. I've been trying to get tickets to the Apex. It's very tough, obviously, to get them because all the fighters are getting them. But it's very tough to get tickets there. But yeah, I just want my family and my fiance to come out and just see me fight live. I've gone to so many live UFC events, and I've always told everybody like I'm going to be fighting eventually. Like people are going to be watching me fight in that cage in a stadium, and to actually say it and do it is going to be a great feeling when I make that walk. But when I do, I can't wait for it to happen. I just hope it happens sooner than later.
Especially if it's in Philadelphia, that'll only be better.
Definitely in Philadelphia.
Well, Kyle, I appreciate you redoing this. Thanks so much.
No problem, man. Anytime.
All right, we're joined by UFC heavyweight Parker Porter, who's back in action. Parker, how's it going, man?
Good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Like this fight, relatively short notice. Like it only got announced a couple days ago. Fighting February 19th. Like, how much notice did you have for this one?
This contract has been signed for a while. I don't know why it took them so long to announce it, but we've had notice about this for a while now. I don't. It's not as short notice as it might seem.
Oh, are you surprised Alan Baudet is your opponent just because you're on a 2-fight winning streak and he's lost his he hasn't looked like, obviously he's on a bit of a losing streak.
No, nothing in this sport surprises me, man. I mean, I'm just here to fight whoever they put in front of me next. So if that's the guy they want to see me go up against next, then that's the guy that I got to get past.
How much do you know about him? Because like you two had similar debuts where you kind of got thrown in there on short notice. Like you fought Dawkins, he fought Tom Aspinall, who obviously are both right up there at the top. So like, how much do you take away from that debut?
I mean, short notice debuts like that, it's tough to take anything away from it at all, especially if they don't seem like they have a great performance. I clearly stepped in on real short notice with my debut, and after my next two fights, I think we could clearly say that that's not par for the course for me as far as like how I perform when I'm ready for a fight. But I don't put too much weight in that one. I put a little more into anything coming after that, where you actually have time to prepare for a fight, or even prior fights to that. When you actually have an opponent set with a camp and a game plan in mind. Sometimes with those debut short notice kind of things, it's like you barely have enough time to find out who the guy is, let alone prepare for a specific style or come up with a game plan.
Do you think because of your debut, like a lot of people overlook you? Like you were the underdog in your past two fights. Like it seems like ever since that debut, like people are underestimating you.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think it definitely didn't display what I was actually capable of. And I've been working on changing that ever since and showing them the real me.
What have you taken away from your last two fights? Because those are really good performances, and like you showed off really good cardio, which a lot of heavyweights can't go 15 minutes like that.
Right. Well, that's one thing I took away is that I'm doing all the right things as far as preparing for my cardio aspect of things. And I don't just rewatch my opponent's footage and stuff. I also sit down with my guys and we go over my fights as well and like look at what I did well, look at what I didn't do well, review what the actual game plan was for that fight versus what I did. And some of the things I've taken away were, where I'm just getting better at everything a little bit each time, just progressing with each fight and really just trying to become a more and more complete fighter where I'm dangerous everywhere. And I think that I've taken away from those last two fights that's the case. I'm dangerous no matter where we go. I'm comfortable on the ground, and I'm certainly, as I showed in my last two fights, I'm comfortable on the feet.
How do you think you match up against Allen?
I think it's a good match stylistically for both of us. He's got great kickboxing. He comes from a solid camp. He's training partners with Cyril Gahn, so I'm expecting his striking is going to be top notch. I haven't seen a lot of stuff out of him on the ground. I've seen he's got some good throws, and he's more or less well-rounded guy. But I think I'll be able to take him into deep water, especially if the fight goes into later rounds.
Well, yeah, like obviously in his last fight, like he had a really good first round. Then the second round, like he appeared to gas out. So was that something that you kind of noticed? Is get this fight past that first round, it's kind of you can have a lot of success.
Yeah, I mean, if it even goes past the first round, you never know. Especially at heavyweight, anybody's got a puncher's chance. Especially with a guy like him, like he's got solid kickboxing. I'm solid boxing myself. I got some good heavy kicks. I think, anything that connects just right could be the end of it.
You kind of mentioned a bit earlier, but you have a good ground game for heavyweight. We haven't really seen much. So is wrestling like going to be part of the game plan or something that's going to be there if it's open?
I mean, wrestling is always there as an option. It just whatever kind of – we always go into the fight with a game plan in mind, what we plan to do. And then, when something changes or something's just working better and we don't need to force anything, we just adjust and go with that flow, so to speak. And that's what I've always been good at, is like, we've got a game plan, we're going to try to stick to it. But, if something proves to be more difficult than something else, go with the sure thing.
I'm not sure if you noticed it. This is the first time you're the betting favorite in your UFC
I've noticed.
fight.
I did notice. Yeah. And it's pretty steep. I kind
Yeah.
of almost going to feel bad.
So like, how do you kind of see this fight playing out? Because obviously Vegas kind of thinks you're going to roll. Maybe that's kind of them finally catching up to you after making you a pretty big underdog the last 3 fights. So like, how do you kind of see this one going?
It's hard to say, man. Like, I think I'm just going to come out there and do what I always do. I come to fight. I come prepared. I come in shape. I'm tough. And I think the thing I can guarantee with this fight is that it's not going to go the distance. It's going to be a finish.
Is that something you're focusing on, is getting that first UFC finish?
Yes, absolutely.
And this is your 4th fight. Like, I know most UFC contracts go 4, but have you already re-signed?
Yes, I have. This is the first fight on a new contract for me.
Well, what's that like for you? Because it took you a while to get to UFC. Like, I remember talking to you before your debut. Like, you didn't even know if you'd get there, and now you're on your 2nd contract in the UFC.
It's a huge confidence booster for me. The first goal was to just get there. Second goal was to prove that I belong, and now I've proven that, and now I'm here to stay, and I'm trying to dig my heels in and make sure this isn't my second and last contract. I'm making sure, second, third, fourth, and just keep going and climbing and stick around for a long time.
If you go out there and finish on, like, what do you think that does for you? That's 3 in a row at heavyweight, and like, heavyweight kind of always needs new contenders to kind of knock up that top 15.
I think it's definitely going to push me up the ranks a lot. I think they, depending on how this fight goes with Allen, a win, especially a finish, might get me matched up against somebody with a number next to their name, or somebody close to it, and it's definitely gonna boost me up the ranks. And that's what I'm looking to do right now. I'm just looking to try and climb that ladder and make my way into the top 10. The original goal was to get to the UFC, and now my next goal is to get a number next to my name.
Do you really have anyone in mind? Because whenever you or Jake Collier fight, like, everyone wants to see you two fight for some reason.
I think it'd be a good fight, but it's never been my style to like call anybody out. I'm just here to fight, man. And we're all here to compete against each other. I don't have any bad blood with anybody. No like grudge matches or anything like that. I'm pretty easygoing in that sense. I'm looking at all these guys as potential opponents. I don't have any one particular guy in mind. Just whoever's above me in the rankings is in my crosshairs right now.
Is that Dawkins rematch one you'd like to get back, like, down the line once you get up there, just to have a full camp and kind of see how that goes when you guys are both?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just to show that, he had a great debut. I came in on short notice, and I'd like to be able to just show that, the next time around, it wouldn't be quite so one-sided. It could still go his way, or it could go my way. You never know. But I would like to get that one back in the future.
Are you hoping your next fight maybe on a pay-per-view, like 4 fights in the UFC and all at the Apex in front of no one? Like, you got to experience that crowd eventually.
No, I would like the next fight after this to be on a pay-per-view at an arena or something like that, or at Fight Night if they do it in an arena. But at the same time, I'm perfectly comfortable at the Apex. It's familiar. It's it's like my second home now. This is fight number 4 in the same spot. Because even my debut, even though it was a pay-per-view, that was still during like heavy COVID restriction times, and it was still at the Apex. So the familiarity brings a nice sense of confidence. But I'm definitely looking to get in front of a crowd, and I just kind of feed off of that energy.
At the Apex, though, with the smaller octagon, do you think that favors you, though, with the wrestling, that there is less room for them to move if you are trying to get them down to the ground?
It is the smaller of the 2 octagons that they use for their events. But I mean, compared to some of the local venue octagons, it's still pretty big. So, you know, I think it gives me, I don't think really the size of the octagon changes the advantage any one way or the other too much. You know, if you're that good of a striker going against a wrestler, you know, like your footwork shouldn't, you know, be so dependent on running straight backwards that you need that much more room to move around. But you definitely see a lot more work off the cage in the smaller octagon, which really, you know, it could favor the wrestler or it could favor the guy who's really good at the clinch. It all depends on where they want to take it.
Just a couple more things. I was trying to remember. I'm pretty sure when we talked before you debut that you were still working a job, or is fighting full time now, or do you still have that other job?
No, fighting's full time for me, but I've also just opened up a gym. I'm here in New Britain, Connecticut. We started running some classes and got some kids programs going and stuff here. We're at Heavy Hitters Club in New Britain, and that's kind of like my part-time job, if you will, right now. While training is definitely my full-time job, as well as being a full-time dad, as always.
Well, what's that like? Because like, do the kids really know who you are and what you do, or is it?
Yeah,
like...
no, they're at the age now. They're both 8. I got 8-year-old twin boys and a 1.5-year-old son as well. But you know, so obviously the baby doesn't have any clue what's going on. But the twins are like, wow, you know, like my dad's famous. My dad's this. I'm like, I don't know about famous yet, but we're working on that. But no, they're starting to get the understanding of it. A couple of times they tried to stay up for. One of them tried to stay up. They both tried to stay up for the Parisian fight, and one of them fell asleep. And then they both made it to staying awake long enough for the Chase Sherman fight. So they're starting to kind of understand things a little more in depth and realize the whole situation.
Well, what do like the kids and the parents say at the gym when they meet you? Like, it must be like kind of surreal for like some of the parents to be like, "Oh wow, like my kid's being trained by a UFC fighter."
Yeah, no, it's starting to be kind of cool. You know, like I still don't think of it as any different. You know, I'm still just Parker Porter, just here loving martial arts and trying to teach it to anybody that wants to learn it. But then I'm starting to get people, kids, parents coming up like, hey, can I take a picture with you? Like, oh, you know, like I really liked your last fight. You like, I like this. It was so awesome. Can you do this with me? Can you do that with me? And it's like, it's a cool feeling for me, but it's more, what makes it so great is seeing how happy I can make them just by being like, yeah, let's take a picture. You're like, all right, let's talk a little bit and let's shoot the shit, you know, and just being able to make other people happy just by being there is a really cool feeling.
Just last question for you. Like, what is kind of the goal for you this year? Like, I imagine it has to be more active, just one fight last year. Like, but where do you kind of see yourself at the end of the year?
I'm definitely trying to be more active. I'd like to try and get at least 3 fights in for this full year. You know, anything's possible, man. I just want to stay real active. You know, I'm not the youngest guy in the heavyweight division. I know my time is going to be more limited than some of these other guys. And I've got goals I want to accomplish. So I'm not trying to waste any of the time I have. I'm trying to get in there. I'm trying to get work and trying to make my climb and stake my claim.
Well, Parker, I appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much for doing this again.
Thanks, man. My pleasure.
All right, we're joined by UFC featherweight Jonathan Pearce. He's got a different opponent for Saturday. Jonathan, how's it going, man?
Doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Obviously, we did this interview and you're supposed to fight Austin Lingo. Like, when did you kind of find out he was out and Christian would be stepping in?
I think 3 weeks out from the actual fight, he had pulled. So I was watching the Jeremy Stevens fight or whatever. I think Juicy J Rosa had beat him. And I know they train out of the same camp. And I was like, he probably got hurt sparring with him or something. And then I was just sitting on the bench waiting for the call. And then I got the call like right when the fight started this weekend.
And how much do you know about your opponent? He did compete on Contender Series, got the win, but obviously didn't get the contract then.
That fight actually was against one of my teammates here, and he trained for that fight when I was in the gym and stuff. So I'm feeling pretty confident. I'm calling first round finish on this one. So
how much of a benefit is it then that your teammates and coaches have already prepared for this guy?
You know, I haven't really gone over any game plans. I think I'm just this is going to be my 4th fight in the UFC, and this is a debut. So This is just experience right now, I think.
And then how much of a help is it too that you have had a full camp, so you obviously have the cardio to go 3 full rounds if it goes there, where you don't really know what his gas tank's gonna be like just because he took it on short notice.
Yeah, I'm definitely ready. I feel like I'm ready if they called me for 5 rounds, so ready to go either way, baby.
Are you a bit disappointed? Like, obviously you want to fight, but are you a bit disappointed you're just fighting a newcomer? Like, I know it's short notice, but like, not many people know who he is, and a win doesn't really do a whole lot for you.
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, I'm just happy to work. I haven't get to fight since September, so yeah, I'm upset that I'm fighting a newcomer, but at the same sense, like I've kind of earned it. I just fought Omar and Kai Kamaka and Lozon. Like I fought a lot of like pretty good names, and I'm finishing guys. So it's nice that I just got the fight filled, really, more than anything. That's what I'm most happy about.
You said first round finish. How do you kind of see it? Do you think it's a knockout or do you think it's a submission? Because you're very well rounded and can get both.
It just depends. Like if I'm hitting him and I feel like his head can take it or whatever, like the body shots or whatever I'm getting in on with. Like if I think he can take that, then I'm probably gonna switch my game to the jiu-jitsu and go for the rear naked.
You're wrestling and strength at 45. Like, how much of a difference do you think that is when you fought at 55 compared to now?
I think it's like almost unfair advantage. 55, I was definitely like too small, and the guys were getting back up to like 85, and I wasn't even walking around at 85. So I learned my lesson there with the Lozon fight, and look at me at 45. I'm doing some stuff. So time to do some more stuff.
Is it going to be a bit weird, like your last fights at the T-Mobile with fans, and now you're just going back to the Apex in front of like no one?
Yeah, but it's all right. Like I was a wrestler by trade,
Yeah.
so I was cool with not being patted on the back for anything, and but I like fighting at the Apex because it does remind me of like when I got on Contender, and I'm undefeated in Vegas. I've never lost in Vegas and never lost in the Apex. So let's keep it going.
You get your hand raised here. Like, are you hoping a quick turnaround? Because I know whenever I talk to you, like you always talk about trying to be active and getting as many fights in as possible.
Yeah, I wanna do some traveling, but not for a long amount of time, and I'd probably be ready to get back in, soon. Just depending upon my opponents, because like I've had two opponents back out now, and like it's I know a lot of people get COVID and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, I'm doing this full time, and when I get paid is when I fight. So I'm trying to fight 3, 4 times this year, especially if I go out there and unscathed in this one. I'm ready to turn right back around and do it again.
Are you like hoping the Lingo fight gets rebooked, or do you think like if you get a big finish here, like you're kind of past him at that point?
Let's run it back. I'm cool with that. I remember Gabriel Benitez is on this card, and I was supposed to fight him. I think I'm past all them dudes, but I think just got more work to do, more fights. You know what I mean? You got to have more fights to be able to like climb. So I'm not looking to like skip nobody in line. But I think I smash those guys if I fight them. You know what I mean? I think it's gonna be worse than what I did to Omar. And look at where Omar was when I fought him. Look what Giga did. So
How far away do you think you are from getting a ranked opponent? Because I wouldn't be surprised, even though this is this guy's debut, you go out there and finish him in the first. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if you're fighting a guy with the number beside their name next time out.
for me, if I had to pick, I want a few more fights because I think there are tough guys in the division that aren't ranked yet. You know what I mean? Like necessarily, and we got Dan Hooker coming back into the mix at 45. So for me, I just feel like if they want to keep giving me the weak guys or whatever, like I'm gonna take whatever they give me. I don't really care. That's what's cool about this because like when I first got into it, it's like can I even do this? Like after I lost the Lozon, so now it's like give me what you got and let's see what they throw at me.
Considering you used to fight at lightweight, like, how is the weight cut to 45? Because it doesn't seem like it's that hard for you, because you're always one of the first people on the scales.
The Gabriel Benitez fight, it was a hard cut, but like right now I got my weight down good, and I think this will be an easier cut. I think it's just hard over as you get older, you know, the more you do this. And I'm not a short, like thicker guy that can cut more weight. I'm a taller, skinnier guy, so it pulls more on me to get down to that weight class.
This is your 4th UFC fight. I know most contracts run 4 fights, but have you already re-signed, I imagine?
Yeah, I'm on my 2nd contract now, and we're going to go to the 3rd. We're going to go get the 50K this weekend. We're gonna do it big, you know.
Is this the first fight on the new deal? Like, did you re-sign after the Omar fight?
Yeah, this will be the first fight on the 2nd contract.
What's that like for you then? Obviously, the UFC is showing some faith in you by re-upping it, and I imagine more money than what you were making before.
Well, I think 2 finishes in a row that might get the job done, and I'm gonna keep trying to finish every guy you put out there, and live up to the JSP name, because that's what it's about. Building a name in this industry.
Just a couple more things. Fight Ready, where you train, like, a lot of people have kind of transitioned over there. Like, what's it like seeing like John Jones, Yuri Prohaska, like Davison Figueiredo all in the gym? Because like training with them has to be something special. Just seeing them train.
It was cool. Like, you're bumping shoulders with the best, so makes me feel like I made a good decision by coming down here, and I can't wait to see what's next.
Will you be a part of Zombie's camp or help Zombie? Because I obviously know he's at Fight Ready now.
That's like my off season, is I'll go run, try to work with other guys through their camp, and I know Marco Manson's getting ready for his fight, so except for the year, I think 2022 is the year for me.
Just last thing, where do you kind of see yourself at the end of the year? Like, everything goes your way. Like, what's this kind of perfect year for you?
Perfect year. I would like to buy top 15 by the year. Like, I want to finish these guys. That's why I would like maybe like 3 fights, and then you give me top 15. You know what I mean? So, but I want to get out there and just fight thing. Get my hand raised here in about a week.
Oh, well, Jonathan, I appreciate you doing this again. Safe travel to Vegas tomorrow.
Say that again.
I just said thank you for doing this, and safe travels to Vegas.
Thank you guys.
Yeah. All right, we're joined by UFC bantamweight Chad Anheliger, who's got his UFC debut. Chad, how's it going, man?
It's going awesome, man. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Obviously, we talked after your Contender Series win. You said maybe you were hoping to get one in last year, but was this kind of the right time frame after you didn't get one in then?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the offer that made the most sense. It was a great matchup, and I was a little banged up after my Contender Series fight. I didn't really know it at the time, but when I was getting back into training, I needed a little bit of recovery time just from the training camp and the fight and everything. So the timing is perfect. I was 100% ready to go when I got the offer for this Jesse Strader fight. So I just put my head down and got to work, and now we're here.
Tad disappointed you weren't on the card with all the Canadians. Like, your teammate Hakeem was on it. Like, it just seems like all the Canadians in the UFC were on that card.
Yeah, it would have been fun to have kind of like a big Canadian theme go on that card, but it's no big deal, man. I'm going to be representing us on my card. So.
Before we get into your fight, what you make of Hakeem's performance? Because obviously that is your teammate, and he looked really good over Chisano.
Yeah, he's just finally, showing a bit of what he can do. I mean, that's still not even the potential that we see in Hakeem in the gym. I mean, that performance was just a vintage Hakeem, sparring session in the gym. The guy is untouchable. Like, he's just levels ahead of these guys that are at the highest level. So it's pretty cool to see him start to put some of those performances together in there. He was 100% dominant. He was in total control of that fight. Looked great.
Your opponent, Jesse Strader, how much do you know about him? Because his debut, like getting matchup against Montel Jackson, your debut, like, it doesn't really get much tougher than that.
Yeah, I really couldn't tell anything from that fight. I mean, besides the fact that, the UFC respected him enough, and he had the confidence to take that fight. Beyond that, I couldn't really pick up much from the fight because he didn't get a chance to even get going. And it's not even like I look at it and say, oh, yeah, man, that guy didn't look very good. It's not even at that point. He took it on, like a week's notice against a killer in the division. Yeah, it was a tough matchup for him. So I don't really care that much about that fight. I did look up some of his other fights, though, before he got signed. And I think I got a good idea who he is and what he's about. And it made me, real excited to sign my name beside his and get it going on.
Well, the one kind of thing I noticed about Jesse too is like the two names that kind of stick out are obviously Montel and then Marcelo Rojo, who's in the UFC. Those are both his losses. Other than that, like he was fighting a lot of guys that were with losing records. Like, how much can you really take away those fights? Because I think if you fight those guys too, like you probably get the same result as what he did.
It's tricky, and I used to really feel that way, especially about the guys in the States, because they had these real inflated records. And you never really knew how good they were, but they have some of the same challenges where the good guys don't want to fight them because they're good. So there's so many fighters in the US, I find, and there's so many local shows that, like, even if you're good, these guys that are less experienced and have crappier records are the guys that are saying yes. So you take the fight. I mean, it's not like you don't fight because of it. So I don't really look too far into it. I mean, I get an idea of what he likes to do when he's doing well. So that's how he likes to win his fights. I haven't really seen him, get pushed too bad. I know he lost the Rojo fight, but I haven't really seen, what he's got deep down inside. You know what I mean? Like he's showed what he can do when things are going his way. So I know what he wants to do, but I'm really going to be testing him in the areas that you haven't really seen from him yet. I'm going to be taking him to deep waters.
Yeah, that's something I want to build on because obviously in your Contender Series fight, like you did that same thing to Gafarov, who was pretty similar like to with Jesse, that he was just kind of running through a lot of his opponents. So like how important do you think that is where if you make him get to that second, third round to see what he's like when he's tired? Because we already know that you can fight pretty well when you're getting tired in that third round.
Yeah, that was one of my best kept secrets. But after the Gafarov fight, I think everybody knows that, I increase the output and pour it on as the fight goes on. That's just been my style for a long time. That's how I win my fights a lot of the times, especially when you're up against these guys that are younger and really athletic and strong, and they cut weight and all these things. I've kind of developed a style to beat those guys because I fought a lot of them in my career, and I'm usually undersized and I'm usually not the freak athlete in the fight. It's usually the other guys. So I have ways of beating those guys, and it's been working real well for me. And it's just applying the pressure and putting the pedal down further as the fight goes on. Even though I'm tired too, I know I got more in the tank than those guys.
How do you think you match up stylistically against Jesse?
Real bad for him, real bad for him. My striking is going to be on a total another level. I know that he hits hard. He's put a lot of guys away, but it's very different when you're fighting me. I have a lot of experience in there. I have good movement, footwork, and my power is the same from the first minute in the first round to the last minute of the last round. I can take him out at any point. And I feel like that power is going to really change his view on the fight. Once he gets clipped a few times, you're going to see it in his face and in his body language. He starts to get desperate. That's when the shots come in, and I can get my chokes. I can get on top. I can wear him out. I really feel like my striking is going to be the difference. And a bonus to that is I think that he thinks the same thing. So that I know that he's got a lot of confidence in his strike. He's got a lot of KOs. So I think it's going to be a really exciting fight for the fans. And that's what, that's what gets me fired up for these fights. It's not the name. It's not the record. I mean, I'm already in the UFC now. So any fight's a great fight. I don't care. What I do care about is somebody that's going to really push the action and make sure people are talking about our fight after the card. I want to have an exciting fight.
He is a guy with like those long reach. Like he has like a 5 or 6 inch reach advantage over you, but you're a guy that you fought a lot taller and bigger guys. And you said you didn't think that's not going to be much of a worry. You already know kind of how to attack those guys.
Yeah, it's all relative. It's been kind of the story of my career is fighting guys that are usually a bit bigger than me. I don't like to cut a ton of weight. So, I got those guys figured out. My footwork, my timing, all that stuff. My skills will really carry me through any areas where he might have advantages like reach and athleticism, size. I'd still pick skill and experience over that every day of the week. So,
how do you kind of see this fight playing out?
Well, I think it's going to be, a real cracker for the first, couple minutes of that first round. I know that he's fired up. He wants to come out and show he belongs in the UFC. So do I. So we both kind of, you can tell in our old fight videos, it's in us. That dog is in us where we want to get out there and really throw down. So I feel like that will happen. If he makes it past that, then, you know, like you get a bit more of a vintage Chad fight where I can pick him apart with my jab, my low kicks, and then do whatever I want. You know, I might start taking him down, beating him up. He's going to kind of show me how he wants to get taken out of there. But there's no way he's making it the full 15 minutes with me.
Yeah, that's something I wanted to like add. Obviously, debut, like, is there like some pressure on you? Not really pressure, but like, is it something that you want to do is get that finish and just kind of make a statement in your debut?
Not a finish exactly. It's actually kind of different. The pressure feels off in this fight than it has in my other fights because I had so much riding on my win streak. I knew it was my last chance to make it to the UFC, and if I lost that win streak, I didn't have a great record, and I was older, and I just probably wasn't going to get it. So the pressure to keep winning was huge for me. But now that pressure's almost down. Obviously, I want to win, and I plan on winning. But now I feel like I can focus more on performing, and I just want people to remember my name. I want to put on a great show. I want highlights. I just want everything I can get. I want to put on a great performance. So yeah, I'm really excited about the fight. Hopefully, I can pull off something memorable.
You get your hand raised here. Like, are you hoping everything goes your way, like relatively healthy, like make quick turnaround? Because I know at 35, you don't cut a whole lot of weights. Like those short notice or quick turnaround fights like aren't out of the picture for you.
Yeah, UFC is my job now. So, you know, I wake up and I work on being ready to fight. So I really want to make that kind of my mentality for this whole next year. I want to get a bunch of fights in and a big win against Jesse. I mean, I don't want to look ahead of him, but I'm so excited for the momentum that's going to do for me. I mean, you look at if I get a big win over Jesse, I've got the win over Gaffarov. Before that, it was Heinstead. So in reality, I feel 3-0 in the UFC. You know, after just my debut. I know it's not accurate, but I feel like there's a lot of momentum there. And if I get a big win, I really want to keep the pedal down and get another one right behind it.
Yeah, and especially that Brady win is looking better and better, especially even though he didn't win tough. Like that was such a close fight that like you could have gave it to him. So seeing how well he did, like, and how you finished him in that third round kind of only shows how good you are.
Yeah, I mean, I was cheering for Brady when he was on the show. Obviously, I was a little jaded because I was still sitting on the sidelines. You know, I didn't have anything on the go at that time. I was just looking at fighting regionally again, so I was a little annoyed. But, you know, COVID had a lot to do with that. So, yeah, it was great to see him get out there and show kind of where that skill level's at so people could go back and look at our fight and realize, you know, that was a pretty skilled fight at the time. And I knew it was when he took the fight and he showed up. You know, he showed up to win, and there was a reason why they said yes when everybody else in the country was saying no. Well, in our country and in the U.S. was saying no. So those guys don't just say yes for no reason. He was dangerous, and it's one of those fights that would have forever flown under the radar if he didn't, you know, make it on the show and make a bit of a name for himself. So it gives me a little bit more street cred, I guess.
How weird is it going to be that your debut is at the Apex? Because everyone kind of just imagines their debut like walking out in front of an arena and all those fans, but like for so many people, that hasn't been able to be the case.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's kind of pumped up on the debut, but I mean, that Contender Series fight was as real as it gets. You know, like that was you get the full UFC experience. The pressure's there. I mean, and it was in the same building, so I feel comfortable going back there and doing it again. You know, I'm not going to get overwhelmed by, you know, all the cool stuff happening. That Contender Series was really important for me because I got to show myself I can perform under pressure against, you know, some of the best guys out there. So I got that going, and then I've already been in there, already been in the building. It's, you know, even when they booked us, I saw it's the same hotel, it's the same everything that I already had. So I kind of don't feel like it's a debut. I feel like I've already done my debut and got over that initial you know, fear, and now I just feel like I'm ready to put on a show this time.
With Hakeem fighting like just a few weeks before you, like how important was that in the gym, where you guys are kind of peeking around for that same date and kind of always in the gym training?
Yeah, we've never actually really had that. Hakeem and myself, I had it with other teammates, but Hakeem and I have never really ended up fighting back to back like that. So it's awesome. Hakeem is such a leader in our gym, and if I can make it through all my sparring rounds with Hakeem, and especially when he's in fight camp and ready, they don't, you know, that nickname Mean Hakeem is not just for his fight. That is all the time. That guy is a dangerous dude. So I got through all the hard work. So there's nothing Jesse's going to show me Hakeem hasn't already.
Like you get your hand raised, like what are those emotions like? Like it is your official like first UFC win, but again, I feel like we've kind of talked about the Contender Series kind of felt like more pressure on you just because you lose that, you're probably not getting in the UFC. Like you win this, and then you have to like not even just win, you have to put on a good performance. But like finally getting that UFC win after everything you've been through, like what would that be like?
Oh, I can't wait. It's kind of like a played out saying, but it's like I didn't come this far to only come this far. Like it's been very hard for me to get to the UFC and get signed. Now that I'm there, that's not good enough for me. I want to get in there and I want to win. And I want to do well, and I want to put on a great fight. So just getting to the UFC is not enough for me. I'm gonna definitely make the most of it. I have a habit of making the most of my opportunities, so I'm gonna keep that going.
And what's crazy is if people don't know your story, like you started out 2-5, like 3 straight losses by stoppage. Like I think a lot of people probably would have just said, "Oh, fighting isn't for me. I'm gonna retire." It's like how crazy is it now to look back on that kind of stretch of your career to see where you are now?
Yeah, it feels like a different lifetime, man. Like it doesn't even feel like me. It just feels like it's so separated from where I am right now. I used to be really jaded. I used to be really upset because my old coach, we used to take some fights that were really bad fights to take, and I wasn't really training the right way. We only fought one amateur fight, went right to pro, and that was a huge mistake too, looking back. So a lot of those mistakes, I used to be really kind of jaded about it. Like, man, if I didn't get my career kind of, messed up at the start, who knows where I could have made it. But actually, the fact that I'm in the UFC now, if you ask any fighter anywhere starting out, if at the end of their career they'd be fighting in the UFC, they'd say that's awesome. They wouldn't change a thing. So I can't sit here and say I want to change anything about that because without it, I wouldn't be here. And it also, I think, gives me a little bit of an edge on some of these guys. I got an experience edge, and I've been through a lot, and I've been through a lot to get here. So now that I'm here, I'm really ready to capitalize on it.
I'm by like Toronto, so I know like Canada's pretty slow to open everything's up, but even where you guys are on the West Coast, like it's starting to open up. So it seems like maybe a UFC card end of this year, like maybe next year. Like, what will that be like if you're be able to part of that and like be able to fight in the UFC at home in Canada?
That's really, when I dream about fighting in the UFC, that's the dream, is that it's here and it's that all my friends, family, fans, everybody can come support. I want that big walkout with the Canadian flag. That's when I picture the UFC dream, that's what it is. So really, really hoping that that happens this upcoming year. I wouldn't be shocked if it does. I think that we're on the right track to make that happen. Not to mention a bunch of Canadians, we got signed to Contender Series and rack up a couple wins, and Canada's looking strong right now. So yeah, I'm sure they want to come back sooner than later.
Yeah, and especially like it helps Canadian MMA because like since GSP retired, there hasn't really been that big name, but there's guys like Hakeem, like yourself, like Jasmine, like, and then there's a bunch of guys on the regional scene that they could sign that like you could help build up a lot of Canes in the UFC if you get back here, because then you could sign a bunch of those top local guys and only help for the future. And those Canadian cards, like they're always one of the loudest crowds going, like no matter where they go in Canada.
Yeah, and it's no surprise that Canadians are doing well in the UFC once they're finally getting in, because we don't have the luxury of a lot of these other places of having so many fighters and fighting these guys that are 0-10. And, those fighters just don't exist in Canada. If they do, nobody's signing them because there's just so many few cards and so even fewer fighters that our good fighters are fighting other good fighters. So, I mean, our records maybe don't look as shiny as some of the other guys, but once we're actually making it there and getting signed, we're showing that we're levels above, and I think that's going to be a trend that keeps going on.
Just last thing, like what is kind of the goal for you? Like you mentioned UFC's full time now, so like everything goes your way. Like where do you kind of see yourself at the end of the year?
The next goal, I want to win this fight against Jesse, but I need to impress on my contract so that I get re-signed. That's my goal right now. I don't want to just kind of get my shot at the UFC and fade away. To really start making noise and start getting myself known, I need to be fighting a lot of fights for the UFC. So, right now I got a 4-fight contract, but I really want to make sure I'm getting my second contract. That's kind of, as soon as I got this first one, I'm already thinking I need to make sure I'm getting re-signed. I got to do what I got to do, say yes to fights, be there, show up, make weight, fight hard, do all the things the company wants me to do so that I can keep growing, because I need them to grow. And I really hope that they give me the opportunity and give me a bunch of fights.
Well, that is true. Like it is easier to get into the UFC than get that second contract, especially now because they're signing a lot of people and you see them just go 0-2, 0-3, and then they get cut and you don't really ever hear them. So that second contract is like very hard to get, which I don't think a lot of fans realize.
Yeah, exactly. And all the fighters know that though, because you can tell, you look through the roster and there's a lot of guys that got their chance and didn't get it. So I mean, in my eyes, that second contract means you made it, not the first contract. So that's already my goal, is that second contract.
Well, Chad, I appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah, thanks, man. Have a good one.